Well, Joy, in this video we're going to create our first assembly in Solid Edge. This video builds on other videos. If you want to follow along, I've linked to each video in the order you'll need to go through it in the description. To get started, we'll need to create a base plate. We'll be using part 6 as the template for our base plate. To create part 6, we'll first need to model parts 3, 4 and 5, all linked below. So we have part 6 opened here, and we want to change this into our base plate. So first of all, I'm going to do a save as. I'm going to give it a name and click save. So because we use save as there, this isn't the part we started with. This isn't part 6 anymore. This is a copy of part 6. So something I'm going to do just to avoid any confusion is change the colour of it. And now we can plow on. So I'm going to go to Tools, Variables, make sure the variable table is displayed with the structured view. Go to peg pattern 1, change the NY peg count to 8 and the NX peg count to 7. And go to protrusion 1, change the block height to 1/3 height. Press enter. That gets us close, and just to maybe finish off here, we could suppress the parts we don't need for a base plate. That has us pretty close to where we want to be. I'm just going to go to Home and maybe use the Move Faces command, and we just move that face, tick this box, and we're going to use a synchronous move. So just drag this arrow to move it to maybe the same height as the center of this hole. So we can click Finish and Cancel. So there's our part. So I'm just going to hit save for that. So we can open the same part again and create more blocks. So I'm going to make a 4x2 block using the same technique. So there's a block now, and I'm going to go to File, Save As, and click Save. And that is our new part here. And I'm going to open up that part again, and I'm going to go to Save As, give it a new name, and go to Tools, Variables, Protrusion 1. We'll change the height to equals 9.6/3. Press enter. NY peg count, and change that to 8. NX peg count, change it to 7. And we can change our color as well. If you want to create an assembly in Solid Edge, from the home screen, you can go to the Create New and New Assembly option, and that will open the default assembly configured for your install. In this case, it's an ISO metric assembly. I could also, from within this environment, I could choose New, and I could select from the options here, or I could choose New again, and that will show a list of all of the available templates. Back within the actual modeling environment, you can go to New, choose an assembly from here. In this case, we have ISO metric assembly again as an option. Or if you have a part that you actually want to use within an assembly in Solid Edge, open up that part and you can go to New, and then the top option here is Assembly of Active Model. So before we choose that, let's take a look. You can see the Pathfinder here and all of the different features on it. And you can see the name of our file here, P007BP-7x-8y.par. So if I choose New, Assembly of Active Model, and we get this dialog box choosing what template to select. So I can go to Browse, and I can choose between all of those templates we've looked at earlier. So I'm just going to choose ISO metric assembly, click OK, and click OK. So it kind of looks like nothing has happened, but if we take a look over here at our Pathfinder, you'll see all of those features have disappeared, and now we just have this one feature, and this isn't a feature anymore, this is a part. So this is the symbol for a part within an assembly, and this is the file name of that part in Solid Edge. And we have this little black diamond with a line on it. And if I actually click on the part within the Pathfinder, it gets selected here. But you can also see underneath the Pathfinder, we have this separate list. We have the same part name. We have this black diamond again with the line. and that's representing the assembly relationship for that, and that's a grounded relationship, it's called. And a grounded relationship is probably my least favorite relationship in Solid Edge. All it really is it instructs Solid Edge to just hold that part in its current position and don't do anything to it. So it's the most basic of all relationships. And if I try to drag this part in Solid Edge, I just click OK. And if I try to drag it, it won't move. We're using a freeform drag. It won't move because it's grounded. But if I click on the part and the steering wheel appears, we can click on an arrow here and we can drag the part to a different location within the assembly. And what that actually does is it overrides the grounded relationship, moves it to a different location, and then reapplies the grounded relationship. I don't really like this relationship because it's kind of easy to accidentally override it and cause difficulties later on. It's just a really kind of a dumb relationship, not really very helpful. So I'm going to click on that part, and maybe I'm just going to click on this relationship down here, and I'm just going to hit the delete key. Now that relationship is gone, you see that these blue lines have appeared around the part, and that means the part is no longer fully constrained within the assembly. It's free to move. So if I click on the drag component command, just click OK. And if I try to drag the part, now I can freely move it around within the assembly. So that's not ideal. Let's try a different relationship instead. So I'm just going to choose select, right click on the part, and I'm going to choose show hide component and turn on the component coordinate systems. Click OK. So now we have two coordinate systems displaying, and if I drag the part, I can see one of them is staying still, the other one is moving around. So this coordinate system is the coordinate system belonging to the part, and this coordinate system is the coordinate system belonging to the assembly. So let's use this assembly relationship here, which is called match coordinate systems, and we can just match the coordinate system of our part with the coordinate system of our assembly, and that pulls the two of them together. And now if I choose select, click on the part in the pathfinder, if we look down here under a pathfinder, we can see this new symbol here, this matched coordinate system assembly relationship has been applied, and our part has been fully constrained within the assembly. So again, if I try to drag the part, hang on, I'll just click OK for this. If I drag the part, it won't move. If I press select, click on the part, and then click on any of the arrows on the steering wheel, we can see it trying to move again. And if I click for a new position, we get this prompt. Instead of it just moving without questioning it, we get this prompt here instead, which is showing different assembly relationship options for what to do in moving the part. So that's a useful little kind of a warning, and it can stop you accidentally changing assembly relationships. So I'm going to just choose cancel and choose cancel again, and the part goes back to its original location. So on surface level, this match coordinate system seems almost identical to the grounded relationship, but it's not quite, because it's kind of a more stable relationship. It's more difficult to change by accident, and it's actually a very, very useful kind of a assembly relationship, and I like it, and it's actually very popular in large assembly design because it's very light on resources. So it'd be common for where very large models are used, instead of having lots and lots of really complicated mates using up a lot of computer resources, instead they will decide to agree on a common coordinate system, and they'll model all of their parts and sub-assemblies around this common coordinate system. So then when they all come together into one large assembly, they're all mated to a single coordinate system, and it just makes everything kind of work. We have our assembly started now, and let's start bringing in some parts. Alright, so we have our parts library here on the right hand side. I can just hit this thumbtack to keep it locked in place, and it could be open on desktop or it could be open on several things, but I'm just going to choose open documents here from the drop down, because some of the parts we want to use in this assembly are already opened. So now I can click on each of the open parts here and look at the preview in this window below. So this is the block I want to use, and I can roughly rotate this in the orientation I want. This is kind of roughly how I want it to be oriented as I move it into the assembly. So now I can go back up to the part name here and drag the part into the assembly and let go. So now the part has kind of landed in, but it's showing in a kind of a green ghosted format. And we see that the flash fit has started automatically. And that is Solid Edge prompting me to set up assembly relationships for the part within the assembly. So let's just set one assembly relationship. So I'm going to click on this peg, and you notice as I hover over it, the axis gets highlighted. Solid Edge automatically infers that we want to select the axis of cylindrical objects. So I click on that. And if I click on this peg here, this peg on the base plate, and now we could do more, but I'm just going to press escape a couple of times, and now our part is no longer ghosted. And let's just choose the drag component command, click OK, and we're in freeform move. And now if I try to drag the part, we see it's kind of doing some funky kind of stuff, and it's almost difficult to see. So let's look at the top view and try and rotate. We see here that it's rotating around this peg. This is the peg we applied the relationship to. And if I drag it up and down, we see this is the peg below it that we made the relationship with. So by using the flash fit, Solid Edge actually, let's just click on that part again. Here's the part, and we see we have a blue line around it, both sides. So that means it's not fully constrained. That's why we can move it around slightly. And if we go down below our Pathfinder, we see this Axial Align relationship has been applied. And that's the Axial Align relationship shown there. So we could create another Axial Align relationship. So if I can choose it manually here, and I need to be a little bit careful. So I'm choosing the yellow peg, and I'm going to choose maybe this peg on our base plate. And now our part flips around to there, and I'm just going to right click and press escape. And now if we choose drag component, click OK. If I can drag the part up and down, but it no longer rotates around the peg, because now this peg is the center of rotation and this peg is the center of rotation. And the only way both of those can be satisfied is by locking it to those two pegs, so it no longer is free to rotate. So we've removed 2 degrees of freedom. And if I click on the part in the Pathfinder, we can look down here. We have 2 axial aligns now. All right. So now we just want to lock in the final degree of freedom. So if I click drag component, we can drag it up, and I can choose flash fit again and choose maybe the bottom face of our part and choose the top face of our base plate. And they come together again. I press select, and now we'll notice in the Pathfinder, the blue lines have disappeared for this part. And if we look down here, we have 2 axial lines, and we have this here, which is actually called a mate. So that mate relationship is where the bottom face of this part has been made to touch against the top face of this part. Brought both of those together, and now that part is fully constrained, no longer free to move. And if we want, we can drag in another part and do the same thing again. So I can choose this peg, this peg, this peg, and this peg. And I can choose the bottom face of this part and the top face of this part. And they have all been mated. Everything is in place. So I'm just going to save this assembly. And this time we want to make a 3x2 block. So we could base it on one of these blocks. So we could maybe base it on this block here. So if I go to save, we see we have different options here. So we have save as, and we have save copy as. So let's maybe do it the wrong way for starters, because it's commonly done by mistake, and it's a good idea to know how to be able to fix it. So let's go with save as and hit save. All right, and I'm going to go to tools, variables, and let's change the NX peg count to 3. Press enter. There's our part. Looks okay. And we can go to view, style palette, and maybe just change the color and hit save. And if we go back to our assembly, we notice something has gone wrong. So the parts we put in have now kind of changed to this 3x2 part. And I can go to tools. You'll notice the mates here are wrong. But if I go to tools, update active level, we see the mates get refreshed. And this peg gets aligned with the peg below it again of our new part. But this isn't what we wanted. So because we chose save as, everywhere our original part was used in an open document, it got replaced with the new copy of the part. So if we wanted to undo that problem, I can choose this part here. I can maybe right click on it in the Pathfinder. I can choose more, and let's go replace part. And now we have a current selection. I'm going to click on this button to select all parts in the assembly and click accept. Then I can choose the part I want to replace them with. Select open, and we have undone the problem. Okay, so I'm going to hit save. So that problem was caused by having our source part be used in this assembly. And while it was being used, I pressed save as, and that replaced all of instances of that part with our new part name. So that's just something to be aware of when using the save as command, where your source file is already being in use elsewhere in an open document. If you find yourself with a part being used somewhere in Solid Edge, you want to make a copy of the part, you don't want any changes to the copy of the part to affect your existing assembly, instead of using save as, you choose save copy as. So that means everything that's used in this source part gets unaffected, but a copy of that part is created for you to work with. Okay, so let's go back. We can choose a parts library. Okay, and I go to open documents. I'm just hitting refresh to update. So here we go. We have this part open now, and we want it oriented like this. And I'm just going to drag that part into our assembly. And again, we can use flash fit, create an axial align between this peg and this peg, and between this peg and this peg. And we can mate the bottom face of our part with the top face of our base plate. That looks good. And you can look through other parts here. So we can drag in this part here, and we can apply these mates again between the pegs. And I'm going to choose the bottom face of the part, mate that to the top face of this block. That looks good. And we can do the same, drag it part in here. Oh, I'm going to undo that. And I'm going to drag this part in instead. And we create mates between these pegs. All right. And then between the bottom face of this part and the top face of this part. That looks good. And we can do the same again here. We can just drag this part in here, and we can make mates between these pegs and these pegs. And now I've got myself into a little bit of trouble because the bottom face of this part is kind of hidden behind this block. But if I hover around where the bottom face of that part should be, we can see it actually gets highlighted. So I can just click. So Solid Edge is able to look through the part. And now I can just choose the top face of this part, and they come together again. So we can keep working away like that in Solid Edge, but we could actually do something else as well. Instead of pulling through parts individually here, another thing we could do is we could click on a part, and this steering wheel appears. I can just hold my control key, click on this arrow on the steering wheel, and that duplicates another part in that direction. Well, I'm just going to ignore this prompt here, click OK, and press delete. So there's that one part there, and you'll notice actually if I click on that part, it has these blue lines around it because it's not fully constrained. But if we look down here, it actually has some constraints. It has 3 concentric constraints, and if we click on these constraints, it can show you them. So this peg has been related to the peg on the base plate. Click on this one, and this peg has been related to this peg on the base plate. And then the final one, this middle peg here, has been related to the peg of this block here. even though we didn't apply any of those, it has inherited those assembly relationships from the source part. So I can just go to Flash Fit, choose the bottom face of this part and the top face of this part. They go together, and now that part is fully constrained within the assembly with me just applying a single mate. And we don't necessarily have to do that with just one part. I could select this part, hold my control key, select this part, with both of those selected, and if I hold my control key, click on this vertical arrow, both of those parts get copied. I'm just going to click OK here and delete. Alright, so now if we look at both of those parts, they have also inherited these axial relationships between pegs on the base plate and pegs on the blocks they were already related to. So all I really need to do, I can choose a Flash Fit or a mate. Both are okay, both do the same thing. So I'm going to choose the bottom face of this part and the top face of this block, and they come together. And I can choose the bottom face of this part. Oh, I think I made a mistake there, so I'm going to press escape, and I'm going to choose mate, choose the bottom face of this part, and we can again look through the part, and I'm just looking for the top face of the part, and it's a little bit difficult to see what's being highlighted, but we have this little glyph beside our pointer, so I'm just going to right click, and that has activated quick pick, and I can go over plane 1 or plane protrusion 1. So plane 1 doesn't really seem to choose much, but if I go to plane protrusion 1, we can see this additional kind of outline of this shape here. So it looks like that's the top face of the part. So I'm going to click on that, and now the two parts have gone together. And we can keep going with that really. So I can choose, click on one part, press Control, click on all parts in a row and the row above it. This time I can click on the center of our steering wheel. If I click on the center of it, it'll move around, and I can move it to this corner here and click. And if I press the Control key, click on this vertical arrow, and now we're copying 2 rows of blocks, and I'm just going to position it on the corner of this block and click there. And this time I'm not going to ignore this anymore. So we have assembly relationship options, and before we chose do not repair unsatisfied relationships, it deleted anything that was unsatisfied. This time let's choose repair unsatisfied relationships, and the option let's choose replace to other components only where possible. So I'm going to click OK. First thing we can notice is our prompt bar, select the components to find relationships to. So we have 2 rows of blocks, and let's just look for relationships in the row of blocks immediately below them. And I'm also going to choose the base plate just in case. So I'm going to click accept, and now you see those 2 rows of blocks are still selected. They're all green. They're also all green in the Pathfinder because they're selected, but you'll notice there's no blue lines around them. Every single part there is fully constrained within the assembly. And if I click on any one of them, we can look at all the mates that Solid Edge has applied, and they've all been automatically applied within the assembly. And so if we wanted to add 2 more rows of blocks, we could just select 2 rows of blocks. So that's 1 row selected. I'm just going to click on this block, and this block. Now we've 2 rows selected, and I'm going to click on the center of our steering wheel, and I'm going to choose the corner here of this block, hold my Control key down, click on this vertical arrow on the steering wheel, and we're going to select the corner here of this block. And again, we have the replace to other components only where possible. So I click OK, and we're going to choose the components to find relationships to. So all of the blocks directly below and the base plate. And I click accept, and all of those blocks have been fully constrained. All right, so now let's put in our floor. So I'm going to drag that in and just select this peg, create a relationship with this peg, and it doesn't really matter. We can choose this peg and this peg. So 2 pegs are enough to fully constrain it from rotating. And now we can choose the bottom face of the part here and the top face of one of these blocks. and they're brought together. And now that part is fully constrained. So I realized I made a mistake there. So I'm just going to click on this part, click on this vertical arrow, and just drag it up. And maybe we're just going to choose Do Not Repair Unsatisfied Relationships, click OK, and delete. Alright, and I'm going to choose this part, and I'm going to press the space key. You can see from the glyph beside our cursor, we're in part selection mode, and we can add or remove parts by clicking on them. So I'm going to choose this part and this part. I'm going to move our steering wheel, click on the center of it, go over to this corner and locate it there. So that does two things. That creates our base point that we're copying from, and it also orients it. So it aligns this vertical line with the vertical line on the blocks. So I'm pressing the control key again, click on this arrow on the steering wheel, and that's copying those vertically along that line. So all we need now is the point to copy them to. So I'm going to choose this corner of this block and click there. And we're going to repair unsatisfied relationships, replace to other components only where possible. Click OK. And the components we're going to search for relationships are all of the blocks directly underneath and the base plate. So I choose accept and delete. And now if we look at those parts, we have those three parts now are fully constrained. This part here isn't. That's the base plate because we moved it away. So we deleted the relationship where that was mated to the blocks below. So now we can move vertically, and we can just apply a mate here from the bottom face of this part here to the top face here. Brings them together, and I'm just going to maybe delete this one here too. So I'm going to click on this part. Right, so I'm going to maybe hide this part. So I click on it, and I can just choose this eyeball beside it. Now it's disappeared, but still there. And I'm going to choose this part, and I click on the center of the steering wheel. And this time I'm going to position it right on this peg. And now I'm going to press Control, click on this arrow. So we're going to copy the part. The base point this time is the center of the peg. We're going to copy it across. So we're copying horizontally along here, but I'm actually going to pick up on the center of the peg below it. And it's a little bit difficult to get, so I'm just going to try and get the angle and choose it from here and click. And now we're going to replace to other components. So I click OK, and the components we're going to replace to is this part here. Click accept, click delete. And now that part is showing in our Pathfinder and it's fully constrained. So that looks good. And the part that was in our way, we can show that again. And that's back now, and we've no problems. Alright, so now we're going to open up part number 7. And we're going to use part number 7 to make a 2x1 block. So I'm going to go to Save As. Because it's not been used by any open assembly, I'm not too worried about it. So we can just Save As, and I can go to Tools, Variables, and change our variable here to give us 2 along the X. And there's our part. So now we can go back to our assembly. Maybe first let's give it a color. So we go to View, Panes, Style Palette. Okay, so now we're going to go to Parts Library, and we're going to take a look for our part. It's not showing there, so I'm just going to press the F5 key to reload. And now the part has appeared as one of the open documents. And I'm just going to drag it in here. And Flash Fit has been activated automatically. So I'm going to choose this peg, and this peg, this peg, and this peg. And I'm going to choose the bottom face of the part and the top face of this base plate. And now that part is fully constrained. Yep, as we can see in the Pathfinder. And so we can maybe copy that. So I'm going to click on it, choose the center of our steering wheel, choose this corner here as our base point. That orients our steering wheel, so I press Control, click on this vertical arrow, and copy it to this corner of our block. We're going to replace to other components where possible, so I click OK, and search for relationships with the part below it. Click Accept, click Delete. And let's take a look at that now. So there's our part. Oh, it's not quite fully constrained. And alright, so it has, let me see, let's just drag it. Okay. Okay, so it's not mated against the part below it. And yes, so the bottom part is. That's okay. So it's had a good attempt. It's inherited most of the mates, but we can just use flash fit, or we could use mate, and we can just bring the bottom face of this together with the top face of this. And I'm just going to right click, and now that part is fully constrained. So if we wanted to copy both of those, we can do the same again. So I click on this one, press the space bar, click on this one. Now they're both selected. I'm going to move the center of the steering wheel to this corner here, and I'm going to press the control key, click on this vertical arrow on the steering wheel and copy it up to this corner here. We're going to choose replace to other components where possible, click OK, and the parts I'm going to choose are this one here. Choose accept. Now let's see, yes, they were properly applied. That looks good. And let's try that again. So this time we have the two of them selected, and we have the little plus minus glyph is already activated beside our cursor. So I'm going to just choose the two below it as well. And I'm going to move our steering wheel center to this point down here and click. And I'm going to click on this vertical arrow on the steering wheel, try and copy it up to, oh, now you notice they all moved, but nothing was copied. Okay, so I'm going to press the escape key. What happened there was I moved them all, but I forgot to press the control key, so they weren't copied, they were just moved. So this time I press the control key, click on this vertical arrow, and now we get copies of them all. And I'm just going to try to place it on this corner. And again, we're going to replace to other components where possible. Click OK, click accept, and delete. And I've actually created two more than we need. That's okay, so I can just choose the top one, press the delete key, and choose the one below it and press the delete key. Now we're back in business. So next we're going to open up part number 7. So now that we have part number 7 open within the parts library, I'm just going to click in this window, hit the F5 key to reload, and now it appears. So I'm just going to orient it how I want it roughly and drag the part into the assembly. And again, I'm going to choose this peg, orient it with this peg and the bottom face of our part, and we want to associate with the top face of this part. And this face here, I'm going to choose with this face, and they have been aligned. All right, and I'm going to rotate the part around and drag in another copy of it here. And I'm going to choose this peg and orient it with this peg. And we want to get the bottom face of this part so we can kind of see the preview of what will be of the bottom face of the part. So I click there, and I'm going to choose the top face here. They've been brought together. And I'm going to choose this face, and they have been aligned too. So now I can just right click, and let's take a look at this part for starters. Okay, it's not fully constrained. And let's just investigate what's stopping us. So I'm going to choose drag component, OK, and we're in freeform move. So now, oh, here we go. So it looks like it has been properly constrained by relationships, by assembly relationships with the block below it. But this block here hasn't been fully constrained within the assembly. So we can choose flash fit, choose the bottom face of this part and the top face of this part. And now they've been brought back together, and actually several of those parts, the blue lines have disappeared from. And I can confirm by just using drag component with a freeform move, and none of those parts want to move now. All right, so we can hit save, and we're going to create another part now based on part number 7. So I'm going to save copy as, I go to tools, variables, change the NX peg count to 7 and hit save. We'll give that a color. All right, so I'm going to go to back to the parts library, hit F5 here to refresh. Okay, looks like I made a mistake there, so I'm going to close that. File, open. Okay, so I made the changes to the original part instead of the copy. So now we have the copy open. So I'm going to go to tools, variables, change our NX peg count to 7, and go. So I'm going to go back to our original part, go to variables, change peg NX peg count to 22, press enter and hit save. Okay, so now we can go back here and I'm going to click within this box, hit the F5 key, and now our new part has appeared. So I can drag that in, okay, and I'm going to choose this peg and this peg, and I'm going to choose this peg and this peg. So they've all been aligned. Choose the bottom face of this part and the top face of this part. Okay, they've been brought together. And I think we can do something similar over here. So I'm going to drag this part in. I'm going to choose this peg and this peg and this peg. Oh, I accidentally selected the circle. So I'm going to press escape. I'm going to choose flash fit, choose the actual peg to get the axis of it, and choose this peg here to get the axis of that. And I'm going to choose the bottom face of this part and the top face of this part. And now they've been mated. Okay. So we could do with one of these little blocks filling in this gap here. So I'm going to click on this. Our steering wheel appears. So I'm just going to press the control key, click on this arrow, and we're just creating a copy of the part out there. This time I'm not going to try to preserve relationships. So I click OK and delete. And we can go here, we can choose flash fit from this peg to this peg, and we see we have a relationship conflict. So it looks like there's been something stopping these two from coming together. I'm just going to press escape, click on this part, and if we look here below our steering, below our pathfinder, while that part is selected, there's actually 4 different assembly relationships associated with this part, and it looks like it has inherited them all from the source part. So I'm not even going to try and fix those. I select the bottom one, press the shift key, select the top one. I'm just going to hit the delete key just to remove all of those from the selected part. So now that part has no assembly relationships. And now I'm going to start applying relationships. So choose flash fit, and I'm going to choose the bottom face of this part, and I'm going to choose the top face of this block. I'm going to choose this peg and this peg. Okay, and we can kind of see a preview of how that block goes in. So it's kind of going along this direction. It's not quite what we want. We actually want it going along this direction, but it's a start. So I'm going to choose select, and there's the part. You can kind of see the overlap. I'm going to choose drag component, click OK, and just as I drag the part, you can see it rotating around the single peg we have the assembly relationship applied to. And I'm going to choose this assembly relationship here, which is called a planar align. It's a lot like a mate, but you can see in the preview here, a mate brings 2 faces together, face to face, where an assembly relationship faces 2 faces in the same direction. So instead of them going together, they're facing together. Okay, so I'm going to choose planar align, and I'm going to choose, I actually want to choose the other side of this face here, and I'm going to choose this face here. And now that block is flipped around, and we can again hide this plate here just to take a look at it. And you can see now it's nicely fitted in between those 2 other blocks. And if I click on that part, we can see it's fully constrained. So let's show that plate again. Okay. Alright, so let's do a little bit more of that. So I'm going to open that part, and I'm going to save that. So we need to be careful this time. So this time we're going to choose save copy as, because it's open in an assembly. We don't want to do a save as, we want to do a save copy as, so that any existing occurrences of this part within the assembly are unchanged. So save copy as. And now it's very easy to make changes to this part, but this is our source part, not our destination part. So let's open up our destination part before we make any changes. Alright, we got our destination open, and the first thing I'm going to do is give it a colour just to make it stand out from the other parts. And give it a change. Okay, that's perfect. Before we go back to our assembly, let's actually make a 3x1 block too. So again, we're using part number 7. So we go save copy as, and we want to open it. Okay, and we can go to tools, variables, change NX peg count to 3, and hit save. Alright, so now we'll go back to our parts library. I'm going to hit F5 to refresh our list here, and I'm going to start dragging in our new parts, and then we're going to apply flash fit relationships between this peg and this peg, this peg and this peg. That all looks good. Maybe we can choose the bottom face of this part and the top face of this part. Looks perfect. And we can bring in another block and do similar again. So we can choose this peg and this peg, this peg and this peg. Okay, and we can't really access the bottom face of this part. We could try and pick up on it, but we could also just choose the top face of this part and the top face of this part and use them. Alright, and we can use part 3 to close in this gap here. So we've been using the parts library here. We can also just navigate directly to the part. If the part isn't open, we can go to the parts library here. Instead of open documents, we can choose the folder we want to navigate to, and we can find the file and just drag it in like we did before. And then we can apply flash fit between this peg and this peg. You notice it's kind of, we almost lost the part there. It's almost completely hidden by the part below it. But I can just choose the top face here, the top face here, and we see it's not properly aligned. So we can again just choose this face, and Solid Edge automatically applies the relationship between them. The part is now fully constrained. Alright, and we can keep dragging in parts like that and keep applying assembly relationships. Okay, so that part I almost didn't see at all. It's gone right inside here. So I can click on this peg here, and I can choose the bottom face of this part, the top face of this part, and now it's kind of got back into sight. So I can choose this peg, and now it's fully constrained. And we can keep working away like that again. So I can drag in this part, and we can constrain it again from the pegs, and hover over this part. We see it's choosing the face opposite us, but we also have this quick pick glyph. So I'm going to right click. Oh, and it looks like it's chosen the face inside the part, which we don't want either. So that's not quite what I wanted. So I'm going to escape out of quick pick and maybe just try and change the angle a little bit and right click. And now we have other options. And now the bottom face of the part is highlighted. So I choose that, choose the top face of this part, and they're brought together. And okay, so I'm going to go, instead of navigating through for the files we want, I want to go back to just the open documents to make things easier. And I'm going to drag in this part here, maybe between this peg and this peg. It's kind of dropped right down in a really tricky spot. So maybe I'll try and get it back up again. I'll choose the bottom face of the part and the top face of this part. That's brought it back up. And now I'm just going to maybe align this peg here with this peg here. That's fully constrained. So I'm going to drag this one in here. And again, we're going to just align the pins and maybe the top face of this with the top face of this, and do the same again here. So I choose this peg and this peg, this peg and this peg, this face and this face. They're all brought together. So now let's copy more parts. So I'm going to choose this part. I'm going to press the space bar, choose all of the blocks along here and choose all of them on the row above except for the end blocks. Okay, so I'm going to click on the center of our steering wheel, locate it around this point, press the control key, click on this vertical arrow and move up to this point here and click, and we're going to repair unsatisfied relationships by replacing other components where possible. Click OK, and the components to select are going to be all of the blocks directly underneath. Click accept and delete, and let's see how that's gone. That's gone perfectly. All of our parts are fully constrained. I like what we have going on here. Let's see how we can maybe recreate it up above without doing so much work. So I'm going to click on this part. We're in part select mode, so I'm going to press the space bar, and now we're in add remove part select mode. So I can choose this part, this, 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 and this. And I'm going to click on the center of our steering wheel. And I'm just going to try and locate our steering wheel on the peg here, on the lower part of the peg. That looks good. So I'm going to press Control, click on this vertical arrow on our steering wheel. So now we're copying all of those parts. And I'm going to try and land it on the lower part of this peg down here. That looks to have picked up on it correctly. So I'm gonna maybe just right click, get Quick Pick and Pattern Occurrence 1. We can see a preview of how the part gets located by each of those options. And Pattern Occurrence 1 looks perfect. So I'm going to choose that. And now we're going to choose Replace to Other Components only where possible. So I click OK. And the parts I'm going to choose are this part here. Click Accept. And all of those parts are now fully constrained. So that was a nice efficient way of copying all of those parts up. Alright, so we maybe want this part here. And I'm just going to right click on it in the Pathfinder and select Open. Now that it's open, it should be easier to find here. So I'm going to click on our parts library here. We have Open Document selected. So I'm just going to press F5 to reload. And now it's appeared. And I'm just going to rotate it around how I want it. And then drag it in here. Okay, so I'm going to choose this peg and this peg. I'm going to choose this face and the top face. And we want to kind of align it as well. So this face and this face here. Looks good. And let's do the same again. So we just rotate it around how we want it. Drag it in here. All right. I'm going to choose this peg and this peg, this face and this face, and then this face and this face here. Okay. Looks good. Alright, so we've been kind of doing that. And let's just see if we can copy this part here. So I click on it, click on the steering wheel, locate the steering wheel about this peg. Now I press Control, click on this arrow. So we're going along the horizontal direction of that arrow. And I'm just going to pick up on for the distance for our 2 point, the peg down here. And we're going to replace to other components where possible. And I'm just going to choose the 2 parts under that block and choose Accept. Now, if we see that part in the Pathfinder, it's fully constrained and we could get 1 2x1 block in here. So let's drag that part in there and just select the pegs we want to create axial aligns between. And I'm going to try and choose the top face of the part. It's not ideal because it's kind of hidden down within our wall, but you can kind of see the top face being selected. So I'm going to right click for a Quick Pick and hover through the different options. And it looks like our top option is correct. And I'm going to choose maybe this face to relate it to, and it pops up as we want it. All right, so we can copy in this part here. I'm going to choose the top peg and this peg here. Maybe this face and this face and this face and this face. So Solid Edge is actually pretty intuitive in that when using Flash Fit, you don't need to tell it if you're trying to do a planar align or a mate. It generally just picks up on it. So that worked perfectly. And maybe let's copy up this part here from below. And this time, yeah, so I click on the part and I can click on the center of our steering wheel. And I'm just going to try and position the steering wheel on the peg. We know there's a peg in here, so I just position it where I think it should be until it appears. So I click, and now I can just press Control, click on the vertical arrow, and we want to copy it to this peg here. So I can click there. We're going to replace to other components where possible. So I click OK and choose this and click Accept and choose Delete. All right, so I press Escape, click on that part, find it in our Pathfinder, and it looks like it's fully constrained. We're good. Okay, so next I suppose we could copy up these 2 parts. So I can click on that part, press the spacebar, click on this part, click on the steering wheel, and maybe just position it to this corner here. Press Control, click on the arrow, and we're copying it up from that base point to this point. And we're going to replace to other components where possible and choose the parts below and click Accept and click Delete. Oh, and we see we have blue lines around 2 of these parts, so they haven't fully been constrained. So let's just take a look at them now and investigate. So I click on this part and we got some lines, but maybe the easiest way is just to use drag component. So I click OK, drag, oh yeah, So it's just the faces, the lower faces of the parts haven't been properly constrained. So we can choose flash fit, choose the bottom face here and the top face there, and right click to exit. So now both of those parts are fully constrained. We can copy this part here, so I can click on it. I'm going to click on the center of our steering wheel and just try and locate it on the peg below. And this time maybe I don't like the orientation. So I'm going to press Shift, click on the blue disc of our steering wheel, and it has flipped 90 degrees. I still don't like our orientation, so I press Shift, click on the blue disc again, and now I like our orientation. So I'm going to press Control, click on the blue disc and release, and I'm going to try and move onto this peg here. So I click as that peg gets highlighted, and we're going to replace the other components where possible. I click OK and choose this part for relationships and accept. And now that part is selected and it's fully constrained. OK. And if I want to copy that part, I can do the same again. So I can maybe click on this part, click on the center of the steering wheel, position it. Well, this time I suppose you can position it to the top peg. It's just easier. Press Control, click on this arrow, and we can copy it across to this peg. We're going to replace two other components, click OK, and choose this part, and click Accept, and press Escape. So that part's fully constrained. Okay, so now maybe let's try and copy this part. I click on it, click on the center of the steering wheel, and I'm just going to try to locate it around the peg below, and click there. I can press Shift, click on the blue disc, and it has flipped 90 degrees the way I want it. So now I'm going to press Control, click on the blue disc, and we're free to move it around the plane of the blue disc. So I'm going to choose a 2 point of this peg here, and we're going to replace two other components where possible. Click OK, choose the part below it, and maybe a couple of parts at the same height. Click Accept and Delete. And now let's just take a look at that part in the Pathfinder. It's fully constrained. It's good. So now let's fill in those gaps. So we can maybe look at dropping in this part here. Drag it in there. We can choose this peg, and we can choose the top face of this part and the top face of this part. And we also want to do a kind of an align. We want to do a planar align, but we're not going to worry too much. We're just going to say flash fit between this face, and solid edge is picked up. It's a planar align with an offset, so that's perfectly brought in. We're okay. It just made those faces parallel. And let's do the same thing again and choose this peg here, and maybe this face here, and this face, and this face, and this face. And again, everything looks good. So we can do the same again. We drag this part in here, and we're going to relate this peg to this peg, this face to this face, and this face to this face. Looks good. And now maybe we want to copy this part here. So I can click on that, click on the center of it, move it to, we're kind of looking around the peg below it. So there we go, we've picked up on it. And I'm going to press Shift, hold down, click on this disc to flip it. So we're flipped 90 degrees exactly the way I want it. If it wasn't, I'd press Shift and click on the disc again. It would rotate another 90 degrees in a different direction, but we got it where we want it there. So I press Control, click on that disc, and I'm going to move it up, copy it to this peg here. Replace two other components, click OK, and choose the parts below it and a couple of parts at the same height. Click Accept and Delete. So now that part, let's just take a look. Fully constrained, that's good. And this part here, we can copy too. So I'm going to click on the center of our steering wheel, move it to the peg, press Control, click on the arrow, and we're going to copy it horizontally along that line to this peg here. And we're going to replace two other components. So I choose the block below it and a block at the same height. Click Accept, and that's fully constrained. Next, we could maybe copy this part. So I click on it, click on the center of our steering wheel, and maybe just try and locate it around the peg down here. Looks good. So I press Shift, click on the blue disc, do the same again. Now we got it oriented how we want it. So I press Control, click on the blue disc, and we're going to copy it from that peg to this peg here. Replace to other components where possible. Click OK. And these are the components we want to replace relationships with. Click accept. Click delete. And let's just take a look at that part now in our Pathfinder. Fully constrained. Looks good. Okay, so we've kind of done what we wanted to do. Let's see if we can, instead of having to redo those mates again, let's take a look at mirror components. So I'm going to choose all of the parts along that face there. Tick this box. And now for the mirror plane, let's look at our base reference planes, and we can look at the front. And we get a little preview here. So we get actions that are being done. Rotate, mirror, rotate, mirror, rotate. That's a good attempt, but not quite what we want. So we don't actually want to physically mirror the parts. We want to just rotate them. Okay, so we can change all of those. The rotates are okay. The mirrors we can change to a rotate. We're not making new parts. We're just using the same ones with a different orientation. That looks better. Not quite the way we want it, because you can see the preview here. These two are facing down instead of up. And we also have a yellow brick here that we don't need. So let's click through these now and just take a look. So this part here has been rotated around the top plane. Let's try and changing that to the right plane. Boom, there we go. And as we look down, this part here, it's also been rotated around the top. Let's try changing that to the right plane. And boom. That looks better. So I'm a lot happier with that. And this part here has been rotated, and I'm just going to actually change that to exclude. So click OK and click finish. So now they've all been mirrored across exactly as a mirror of here. And let's do the same thing again for these ones. Oh, except, let me see. Oh yeah, we're going to have an issue with this block here. So maybe I could just delete this one from the mirror. Oh, can't. Okay, so I'm going to click on it, go down here. We have this mirror, and if I click on it, I could choose edit. And for the go back to the select component step, and maybe I'll just click on this. I'm going to press Control, click on this part to deselect it, and click finish. It says operation unsuccessful. So let's try that again. Edit, select components, and I'm going to press Control, click on that part, click there, and click OK, click finish. Now it's done it. It's after dropping that part from here. That's exactly what we want. And now we can mirror these parts across. So let's choose mirror components, select all of the parts along here, tick this box. Now this is only really working so easily for us because our part has been nicely located symmetrically about the coordinate system. If it wasn't, we'd probably need to create special planes to mirror about, but because everything has been nicely done, we can do this pretty efficiently. So our mirror plane is going to be this plane, and let's take a look now at our preview. Our preview looks good, but again we're doing mirror, rotate, and we don't want to mirror the actual parts. This is previewing a different output mirrored file name. We don't want to do that. We don't want to create duplicate parts, mirror versions of parts. So we're going to choose rotate in both of those instances. And yeah, so our preview now looks wrong, but we can fix that up. So if I click on this part, this is the one that looks like it's upside down. We're going to change from doing it around the top plane to doing it around. Let's have a look at the right plane. That looks better. And this one here, the same again. Let's change from top to right, and that looks better. So I can click OK, finish, and we're back in business. And we want to do another part similar to this. So maybe I'll just right click and choose open. And I'm going to go to save copy as, and click save. And I'm just going to go to that part and go to variables, peg pattern 1, change y peg count to 10 and x peg count to 9. Hit save and go back to our assembly parts library, click in there and press F5 to refresh, and now our new part appears. So I'm going to drag that part in, and I'm going to choose this peg here and this peg here, and difficult to see, but maybe we could choose this peg here and this peg here, and now we could just vertically align them. So this face here with this face here. And that looks like it's been properly mated. Let me just confirm. There it is, fully constrained. Okay, so maybe let's try and copy this part. So I'm going to click on the center of our steering wheel, and I'm looking around in here for the peg. So it looks like we picked up on it. So I click, and as we preview, we can see we're right on the bottom of our peg. And I'm going to press Shift and click on our blue disc. That's flipped our steering wheel, and I'm going to do that one more time. Now it's in the plane I want it to be. So I press Control, click on our blue disc. Now we're moving in the plane, or copying in the plane of our blue disc. And I'm just going to try and set our 2 position as the center of this peg here. We're going to replace 2 other components. So click OK and choose this part here. Click Accept and Delete. So there's our part that's fully constrained. We got all our mates there. And we can copy that again. So I suppose we could choose this part. I could move the center of our steering wheel to this peg, press Control, click on this arrow, and copy it over to this peg here. And we're going to replace 2 other components. So I choose the part underneath, click Accept, and yeah, that's been fully constrained too. We're looking good. So now we can start filling in the gaps. So we have a 3 peg one here. Drag that in. Choose this peg, this peg, this peg, and this peg. And we can choose the bottom face of this part and the top face of this part. Okay, and maybe let's copy that again. So click on the part, move the steering wheel to this peg here. We're going to be moving horizontally in the direction of this arrow. So I press Control, click on this arrow, and set our 2 location as the center of this peg. Replace 2 other components, click OK, and choose this part here, click Accept, and that part is fully constrained. So now maybe let's fill in that gap. So we have a 4x1, drag that part in, choose this peg, and this peg, this peg, and this peg. I'll maybe choose the top face of this part and the top face of this part. Now they're fully constrained. I think, let's just confirm that. So I click on this part, and yeah, that's fully constrained. Alright, so let's just copy those parts across. So I click on that, press the space bar, click on the other 2 parts. We could mirror them, but it's probably just as easy to copy them. So I'm going to move that to there, press Control, click on that arrow, and move it over to this peg here. We're going to replace 2 other components, click OK, select this part, click Accept, and they've all been fully constrained. And now let's maybe look at bringing in these parts. So I'm going to drag this part in here, click on this peg, this peg, this peg, and this peg, and click on the bottom face here and the top face here, and maybe we can copy that again. So click on the center of the steering wheel, move to this peg, press Control, click on this arrow, and copy it across to the center of this peg. Replace 2 other components, so click OK, choose both of those parts and click Accept, and that's fully constrained. And maybe we could copy those 2 parts too. Maybe first let's fill in this gap here. So we can drag this part in, choose this peg, this peg, this peg, and this peg. And I'm going to choose the top face of this part and the top face of this part. So they're all looking good. To copy these 3 parts, I'm going to pick one of them, press the space bar. So now we're going to choose a second one and a third one. I'm going to move the steering wheel to one of the pegs here. So that's our from point. Press Control, click on this arrow, and I'm going to select one of the pegs here as our 2 point. That's perfect. So we're going to replace 2 other components where possible. I click OK and choose the parts underneath it. Click Accept, and they're all fully constrained now. That looks good. And now let's look at closing in some more gaps. So I'm going to drag in this part here, choose this peg and this peg, this peg and this peg, this face here and this face, and they're brought together. And now maybe we can just copy that. So I click on that part, move the center of our steering wheel to this peg. Let's try that again. So click on the center of the steering wheel and move it to the peg. Press Control, click on this arrow, and we'll copy it across to this peg. Click there. Replace two other components, click OK, and we're going to choose the two parts below it. Click Accept, and that's fully constrained. So we can just maybe press the space key and select the second part. And we already have our steering wheel located on the center of this peg. So I'm just going to press Control, click on this arrow, and we can copy the parts across to this peg here. Center of that peg. As it's highlighted, I click, replace two other components, click OK, and choose the parts underneath. Click Accept, and they're all fully constrained. That looks good. So now we have our first assembly in Solid Edge. Hopefully you've been following along, and hopefully you learned a bit along the way. In our next video, we'll go from building a tower to building a castle in Solid Edge. Along the way, we'll learn about sub-assemblies, assembly groups, assembly patterns, drop-in assembly patterns, the assembly relationship assistant, and the replace part with copy command. Right, Joey. Talk to you in the next one.